new day here on TV3. Hopefully you enjoyed the football footage this morning. As we always say, best seen on TV3. Now it's time for our newspaper review, which is brought to you by Lipton Tea, inspiration flowing from nature. With me in the studio this morning, we have Atik and we have Sylvia. Good morning to you both.
Good morning.
How are you?
Good.
Good. First things first, are we in the patriotic mood?
Certainly so.
Yes? I hope so. Today we have no other option but to qualify. In light of all the other tumultuous situations we have in our country, I think this is the biggest distraction that we could have for today. So go Black Stars once again. Do it for our nation. Now we'll kick things off with the Daily Graphic. On the front cover here, the two that are going to be clashing later on this afternoon are Samuel Jan and Cristiano Ronaldo. But we'll talk about that in a little bit. We'll put Black Stars and the football on the back burner for now. Otherwise, I'll get too emotional. But the major headline is consumers to pay more for power water from July the 1st. And also fuel shortage hits Accra. On the reverse of the paper, Stars ready for battle. We are focused for the job. And that's according to Christian Chu. Let's start with the major headline here, and this is what I'm talking about, the distraction that we do need. Consumers, general public, Ghanaians are about to be hit with another tariff hike for power and for water as of the 1st of July. Atik, regardless of what the percentage increases are, what are your opinions on this?
Let me say good morning to our cherished viewers. First and foremost, I think that this increase, if you ask me, for want of a better expression, sounds ridiculous to me. Because this is not the first time. And especially if you look at the justification, most of the time we are told that, it is because the utilities are finding it difficult to deal with their financial situations. That is why we need to pay, as they often put it, realistic tariffs.
Yeah.
And not long ago, we were made to pay 78%, almost 79% increase on electricity. Mm-hmm. Now, what has been the outcome, or what has been the upshot of that increase? The same doom so. In fact, it has actually gotten worse after the increase in the tariffs. Now, we are told that we need to pay some more in order that we can have stable and reliable supply of electricity. But the bigger question is really not about the consumer. For me, if you look at the electricity supply chain, at every point, there are serious challenges associated with the utilities. And instead of the PURC, and indeed I strongly feel that the PURC has slumbered for quite too long, it is supposed to be protecting us consumers, but oftentimes, it comes across as rather more friendly, even though in public they tend not to paint that picture towards the utilities than they are actually to consumers. Now, if you take generation for instance, in spite of the fact that our installed capacity now has increased to around 2,500 megawatts, we still have a situation with VRA being able to generate enough power. And it is simply because there isn't adequate fuel. And whose responsibility is it to ensure that we have adequate and regular supply of fuel? Certainly it's not the consumer. And we may pay 1,000% increase on the existing tariffs. I can assure you that if nothing is done about getting or exploring other gas markets to ensure that we have adequate and reliable supply of fuel, certainly this situation will not abate. And again, you come to transmission, Gridco. A lot of the equipment are yet to see replacement ever since they were installed. That cannot be attributed to the consumer paying realistic or not paying realistic tariffs. And because of the obsolete nature of the equipment, we tend to record high levels of transmission losses. Already the energy is inadequate and you lose some of it in the process of transmission. The worst in the chain is even the distributor, and that is ECG. Look, I think about ECG and I can't help but to get angry. The problems are just so many.
My favorite people.
Your favorite, of course, because they have very strong PR mechanism. They are able to always talk away the concerns that people vent on them. Look, technical losses, revenue losses, to the extent that even distribution losses. Do you know that, when they buy the energy from or the power from VRA, through distribution, they lose close to 27% of the energy. And 27% of that energy is energy that is unaccounted for and not paid for.
Yep.
Already we are complaining about inadequacy in the supply. Now you go and take what the limited supply, and instead of you to be cautious about how you distribute, you lose 27% of it. Nobody's going to pay for it. And at the end of the day, your financial situation is going to get worse. And once yours get gets worse, it means that it's going to have implications on VRA. Because if you don't have, you can't pay VRA.
Yeah.
VRA to force them into a very serious situation, and that vicious cycle continues. So for me, whether Ghanaians pay 1,000% increase on our tariffs or not, the truth of the matter is that the Dumso, I do not see any, any solution anytime soon.
Light at the end of the tunnel.
I do not. In fact, I see darkness from the beginning to the end of the tunnel. I mean, we need to deal with these challenges. As for the consumer, we are doing our part. Now you've increased, we are paying, and with this prepaid metering system, nobody can say I will not pay. But we are doing our part. What are you doing in respect of your challenges?
Good points there, Atik. Thank you very much. Sylvia?
Well, I'm just wondering where I would really want to start from. But I want to believe that if you want services, you pay for it. Mm-hmm. And that is not to say that the automatic tariff adjustments are justified all the time. But I know that for PRC to come up and decide that there should be some marginal increase, they would always look at the generation mix. Here you're talking about how much crude is coming in, how much are we getting from gas and all that.
Yes.
But I think that we should be running a more efficient system where we can account for, at least bring the generation losses to the barest minimum.
Yes.
And in as much as PRC would want to task those utility providers, right from the producers to the distributors, I want to believe that some efficiency must also be seen constantly. But you see, one of the things I've observed about us as a people, sometimes we demand for services, but for these services to be provided, it comes at a cost.
Yes.
Look, I don't want to speculate, but if we all be honest to ourselves as Ghanaians, even with the prepaid meter, people find a way of cheating on the system.
Oh, yeah.
Okay? So sometimes I ask myself, what do we really want as a people? Do we want continuous supply of energy that would be used in the industry, health sector, virtually in every aspect of our human endeavor? Because when you get to the traffic light and it's not working, it can be madness.
Yes.
You know? And sometimes I keep asking, we have a destination, but our attitude towards what we are doing as a people also matters. You see, whenever there is this automatic adjustment, TUC will demonstrate, everybody will say government should give in, and then it government backs out, and then we come back to the same point.
Yeah.
For how long do we want to go through this motion? We say we want to have industries that are functional. We need energy, and it comes at a huge cost.
It does.
For me, I would always say that if civil society begins to really demand from the service providers. You know, last week, I wish I wasn't going to say this, I noticed that my electricity pole, I don't know the number on it, but I have the number to ECG hotline when you have faults or you want to report example, power upsurge or something. Yeah. So I told the lady, I think her name was Agnes. You know, sometimes we say I don't want to mention the name.
Oh, she gave her name, so it's okay.
Yes, she did. Then I also gave my name to her, and I told her that I've noticed that the cable from the main pole into my house, it's almost dropping off.
Right.
So I was calling so that they could send somebody. I gave the house number and the street number, and even gave my landline number to her. And then she says, okay, you take this number and then call back. I said, I'm not going to call back. Make sure it is done.
Yeah.
And I said, thank you, have a good day. This was last week, was it Thursday or Wednesday? Wednesday. And as I speak, it's not been done. All right. I wanted to call her yesterday, but I said, let me wait for 1 week more and see what happens. But you see, sometimes everybody takes other people for granted.
Yes.
I took my own phone and called your 611, I guess, 0302, yes. And instead of you delivering, you want me to call back. So what are you being paid to do? You see, we live in a country where the moment you demand for things, you are labeled as being too known. But for God's sake, what you don't know, you can't do.
Exactly.
And I would always say that PURC is there to protect the consumer, all right, but the consumer must also make demands and follow up and make sure that it is done.
Indeed.
Look, the telcos are messing us up. You pick your phone. We are all carrying 2 or 3 mobile phones, not for the luxury of it, but it's because you want to make a call and no call is going through. NCA is there. You've loaded your phone card and then you notice that you can't even use the credit anymore, and you call them and it's as if they are doing you a favor and they ask you to keep calling them. So I feel that somehow we must demand efficiency from all these service providers and make sure that people sit up and do the right thing. For the adjustments, if we don't swallow it now and we accumulate it and it gets to another 60 or 70%, industries will collapse.
Well, they've actually cut it already,
So-
because it was meant to be about 30-something%, and they reduced it to
That's
12.
always been the talk. That, we haven't been magnanimous to you, it could have been worse, and so on and so forth. For me, we need to do simple cost-benefit analysis here. If I'm paying more, am I getting improved service
That's
for the
all.
increase?
That's all
that's
we
the
wanna
basic
know.
question we should be asking.
That's all we want.
That is all we are asking. And I listened to some people and they were justifying this increase, citing other examples like the exchange rate regime we are running now. I think government also has a huge responsibility. If you can't do anything at all, give us a stable economy. And I'm sure some of these things, could.
The thing is, I mean, as a Ghanaian who earns cedis, pays taxes in cedis, and just wants power and all the rest of it, you come tell me about an exchange rate. That has nothing to do with me.
Their transactions are dollar denominated.
Are you sure it has nothing
No,
to
you
do
see,
with
no,
you?
the average
Patrick,
Ghanaian-
you
no.
said that
No, it
VRA
does.
should have
Yeah.
constant supply.
No,
of
I
food.
agree that
But
reason
the
why I
food
say
is
that.
imported in foreign exchange,
Everything
isn't
look,
it?
The reason why I
is
say this
imported.
is because, look, fine, we've already established the fact that we are a dollarized country. All our imports are coming in. The crude will pay for in dollars. Even when we get to the ports, the duty will be converted into dollars, whatever the case is. However, the average Ghanaian doesn't have dollars. The average Ghanaian earns cedis. The average Ghanaian goes to work and gets paid in a currency which we have. They don't have savings in foreign exchange. They don't have dealings in foreign exchange. They don't. So why is it that the foreign exchange affects the Ghanaian? I can understand where the people are coming from, but holistically, the government has to deal with those things before the average Ghanaian even thinks
Exactly,
about
so
it.
that's
So
what
don't
I'm
come and
saying
tell
that-
us about foreign exchange.
Government should be dealing with ensuring that
sometimes are we not demanding? Let me be careful about my words here.
demanding too much.
Government wants to increase taxes because we would need the taxes.
Yeah.
In one breath, we said don't do it. In another breath, we said get things in order. So how do we really want to
No,
govern this country?
This is not a question of tax. We are talking about exchange regime. Our exchange rate. And government doesn't need to increase taxes in order to manage your exchange rate.
So how should they manage it?
Very good. You see, as we speak today, the reason why the exchange rate is getting worse is simply because there isn't enough foreign exchange in the banking system. So what does government do, or what does government need to do to ensure that there is availability of more foreign exchange? It is not for the ordinary consumer Ghanaian to do. There is nothing you can do in respect of this. If you look at the reason why there isn't enough, we have
It is
blown
not
the-
so simple. Gold prices are nosediving.
Down, yeah.
Exactly.
Cocoa prices the same. So if we look at most of our major exports, you see a lot of things are not in our favor. But for me, I keep saying that it is governance is not that easy.
I know.
Running our own homes is not also easy.
Yes.
But let us also set our priorities right, use our resources efficiently.
That is the word.
And then we can be sure that we are making a headway.
Efficient
And I
use
will
of
not
the
hold
resources.
breath for anybody, whether VRA, GridCo, or ECG, who are not efficient and are not even responsible.
Who does to ransom?
Yes, and sometimes some of them, the way they speak to us is also very annoying.
Okay,
You understand?
Let's move on to the next story because it is as equally emotional. It's on the front of the graphic as well. But now we're moving to the Ghanaian Times. Fuel shortage. Now, yesterday I know that the average person probably spent half of their day trying to find money, working, getting along with their business, and the other half looking for fuel. Did you have any experiences yesterday, Sylvia?
Not yesterday.
No, the day before?
No.
You haven't had any experiences as yet?
No, but I can observe the trend.
You're a truly
But-
blessed Ghanaian.
Oh, I'm highly
Extremely
favored.
Extremely so.
No, but sometimes I ask the question that if this is what we want, we must go for it. Sometimes you are left with no option than to think that the government is seriously under pressure. the demands far outweighs what they really want to do. It is like running a home. You have to pay school fees, medical bills, recreation, clothes, what have you. So sometimes you really need to get your priority right. You see, it's always easy for you to be at the other side and complain. This can be done, this can be done. But when the reality dawns on you, it's another thing. This thing is coming about because of the credit facilities not being given to the bulk oil distributors, and because they cannot get the oil imported because they can't get the facilities. But you see, sometimes I keep saying this thing, that if you don't fight, okay, let me put it this way. They said that you better bear the ills you have today than flee to others yet unknown. And we always think that it's always greener at the other side. It is not.
True.
If the subsidies that government is paying on this fuel can be channeled into other sectors, I think it will make a lot more economic sense. No, listen.
Well.
If you read the story, well, how do I put it? The core issue at stake is the fact that the importers are not able to get the credit facilities on which it always run.
Yeah.
So if government will demand that continue to subsidize to some level, because when the TUC was going to demonstrate in the first quarter of this year, government decided to absorb some.
Yes.
So at the end of the day, we are just going around the same problem in different ways, robbing Peter for Paul, and then at the end of the day, we come back to square one. We want fuel, we want electricity. But which sector of the economy?
But Sylvia, you said something when you started your comment. When you're at home and all the rest of it, you take care of your home and all, you tighten your belt when you know there are issues coming. You're able to forecast that, you know what, next month is going to be tight. So kids, let's not spend on toffee. Let's not, I can't buy you new trainers this month. Let's do it next month. You'll have to weigh these for now. That would be the case. I mean, the reason why people are so frustrated is because even though all of this is happening, you still see people misappropriating funds. You still see leaks in 27% of utility, wasted. I mean, that's what's hard to believe.
Yes. But Benny, let's also understand that governance is not so easy as we think. You and I can sit here this morning and say everything that we want. But again, if governments would be very honest with the people and paint the true picture at all times, and citizens will not see it as a weakness, then we can be making some headway. We always, women, we like to hear the sweet things. If you go and stand at Accra Sports Stadium now and tell me that you own that place, probably somebody will take it. But if you tell me, oh, my friend, we just starting life, I have nothing, but I hope that in the future we can make it together, she doesn't want to hear that. And this is where I see a lot of Ghanaians, being swayed. And sometimes we believe the lies rather than the truth. If government says that we accept that we have challenges, somebody will say, fix it. So sometimes it becomes very difficult as to what we really want. You understand? And I am not saying that the fuel shortage is any form of justification. A lot of taxis were parked by the roadside, traffic lights, and causing a lot of obstruction. And for most of them, they can't even buy more than half a tank a day. I don't travel much, so even if I have half a tank, I'm sure it can take me for even a week because I don't do too many rounds. But for people who depend on it as their commercial activity, it was very frustrating to them. For the long distance travelers, buses were not available for them, so if you have any appointment, it means that you can't follow through. So I hope, but I know that this morning it has actually improved. Super, I am told, is available. Unless I'm wrong. But when we are all driving out, we will see the fuel station and see what is happening. But I just hope that people in charge of all these things can be more efficient and anticipate some of these things even before they happen. We saw this thing coming. I don't know whether it was Monday or Tuesday. They said fuel locked up under key or something. But we need the fuel to move around.
Okay, let's move on to the next story and newspaper as well. The Daily Guide this morning. Apo fights Nana Oye. Malvi Adam buried. And Nana fires Abu Dhabi over false allegations. Okay, let's take a quick look. Didn't really want to do politics today. Okay, let's look at this. State burial for Malvi Wahab Adam. State funeral was yesterday held for the late Amir and missionary in charge of the Ahmadiyya Muslim mission in Ghana, Malvi Dr. Wahab Adam, with politicians, Muslim clerics, traditional and Christian leaders, and members of the Ahmadiyya sect paying their last respects to the revered former head of the Ahmadiyya mission. I actually managed to catch some of it on television. It was a very nice procession. And it was good to see that a state burial was done for such a great man as well. Any comments at all? I think.
Yeah, I mean, let me first and foremost say condolences to the family and to all Ghanaians, because he was such an outstanding statesman. I knew him up close. He was a very good mentor, a very good friend. You know, this is a man. The first time I had an encounter with him, we had a forum at the Institute of Economic Affairs. He walked up to me, mentioned my name, and I couldn't believe
that he knew you.
You know, a man like that would know me and me. You know, he started a conversation, and before I realized, he was encouraging me, you know, telling me to be focused, make sure that in everything I do, I should always bear in mind that Ghana should be the ultimate winner and so on. I mean, he was so passionate about Ghana, very patriotic in every respect, and he volunteered, he made himself available for every national assignment that there was. You know, this National Reconciliation Commission that was set up, it came with a lot of fury, yet he ignored, you know, those controversies to serve on that commission with the sole aim of ensuring that Ghana reconciles. You know, we had just transited from a very long regime that had a lot of questions which needed a lot of answers and so on. So he felt that this was an opportunity for Ghana to look past his past and then move on. And I think he discharged himself fairly creditably on that commission. He accepted other assignments like being on the National Peace Council. And I can mention, in fact, I remember when the Constitution Review Commission was working, we had a Constitution Review Coalition, you know, in which I happened to serve. And he was, I think, the vice chairman to the present chairman of the National Peace Council, who is Professor Asante. He was the vice chair to that coalition, and his contributions were phenomenal. And like I said, in everything he did, or in everything he found himself in, he was always persuaded by the fact that Ghana could be better, and so he gave off his best in all assignments that, you know, this republic handed over to him. And I think that Ghana is going to we have missed a very great man. And I think that a lot more of such people are the people we need, especially in these trying times. These are times that are not ordinary. I mean, today, nothing seems to, well, that would be harsh if I say nothing seems to be working. But a lot of things seem really to be in a great deal of inertia. You go to economy, there is crisis. Even fuel, we can't even afford to have regular supply of fuel, which means that we would need some of these inspirational figures to step up and tell Ghanaians that it is not that bad, we can overcome it, we've done better in worse times and so on. So Ghana really has lost a great man, and I think that a lot of our leaders should be looking up to the achievements and the legacies of people like Dr. Wahab, so that together they can be those figures the society expects to see.
All right, thank you, Ati. So
let me start off by saying that we all pass through this earth but once. If there's anything we can all do, let us do it. And when we are gone, we'll be remembered. Malvi Wahab Adam, I served with him on the what we used to call the R3M reduction in maternal and mortality rates.
Yeah.
And he was one person, in fact, he had been watching me on GTV, I didn't know. So I met him, I don't know at what forum. And he also walked up to me, and then he said, "Young woman, keep it up and do your best for this country." And I was humbled. In between, we started talking on the phone. His death is a loss, but that only buttresses the point that death is inevitable. It will come when we have to go, and we must all remember that we are on this earth for a purpose. And if there is anything we can do, let's do it well. And when we are gone, we'll be remembered. I just hope that with succession and whatever the Ahmadiyya movement will have to do, it will be done very smoothly, and then it won't, because he's a very peaceful man, and the legacy we can leave for him is to continue to pursue peace. And that should also be for all of us as Ghanaians, and to know that we are each other's keeper, and we can always make very meaningful contribution to make life easier for everybody.
And Benny, I think this might sound a little trite, but I think it's important. You know, he dedicated a greater percentage of his public life was committed to building peace. And he also served on the National Peace Council. I think it wouldn't hurt very much if some lecture of his sort some peace lecture, which becomes an annual affair, is organized by the National Peace Council in his memory or in his honor. I think it will not be out of place. Even though, in Ghana, a great person dies and everybody is thinking about lecture.
Why should it always be after they are gone?
That is the question.
Well, that's a general human thing. We always wait till somebody is gone before we actually.
Can't even appreciate it.
Yes, that person is not around. But I think it will not be bad, and it would not be very much cliched if we did institute something like that in his memory, because he was a peace-loving person.
Okay, now here's some encouraging news. Ghana will soon have a central adoption authority. The Minister of Gender and Children and Social Protection, Nanoye Letha, has announced. According to her, the ministry was in the process of finalizing the draft of the adoption and foster care regulations for Parliament, which would establish the Central Adoption Authority. The authority, when established, would have the mandate of overseeing adoption processes instead of the numerous social welfare offices around the country. And she said during the Meet the Press series in Accra that the new regulation is not to deter people from adopting, but to protect the children. She said that in about 1,300 adoptions in the country, 800 children were taken outside the country last year. Mrs. Letha said that the ministry has also taken steps to enforce the law on adoption in the country, with the proposal for the review of the adoption process in Ghana, an amendment to the Children's Act of 1998. Step forward.
Well, it's not. I think the intention is not bad, but why this craze about setting up authorities at every time? In this country, the slightest idea that pops up, somebody wants to set up an authority to give meaning to that idea.
Because you need a legal backing.
The social welfare is, I think, it's a legal establishment. Why don't we rather empower that living corpse called the social welfare? Why don't we rather empower it to be responsive and able to deliver on its mandate, instead of setting up a whole authority just committed to only adoption?
Do you know something? On any other topic, I would probably agree with you. But in regards to children, I don't believe there's a way that you can just try and find out if this works or not. The social welfare system obviously hasn't worked.
It's because we have malnourished that institution. We have starved it. We should
wait and feed it some more and see.
Not wait and see. If already there are personnel, there are offices everywhere, it's just a matter of capital injection. You give them the resources they need to work, get them the right personnel and the kind of training they need. And I'm sure with a legislation that will ensure that adoption is done appropriately, they'll be able to, live up to the billing. But if you set up a separate authority, social welfare is already existing but non-performing simply because it has no resources. You'll get to a time that authority you are setting up with so much enthusiasm today, because probably there's some little money you have. You set it up, in few years to come, it is also ignored, and it becomes just like another social welfare. We need to strengthen our institutions, and this is, it's become something that everybody says, we need to strengthen our institutions. Yet the action to actually give meaning to the strengthening of the institutions is something that has remained unanswered. I think that we don't need an authority, if you ask me, to ensure that adoption of children is done properly. You just need to strengthen the existing institutions and ensure that the necessary legal framework that social welfare would need to work with is in place. You leave social welfare, and look, we don't even have a foster system in this country.
No.
And that is where the problem really lies. And that is why people take advantage to set up all kinds of orphanages. And in the long view, they tend to exploit the children instead of taking care of them. If we had a proper, effective, and efficient social welfare system, it could take care of these children who are orphans without necessarily having to give them to exploitative and opportunistic orphanages. That is where my problem is. But if you set up an authority to deal with only adoption, the following day you'll be setting up another one to deal with parents who are not taking care of their children, and it becomes, if you like, duplication of existing institutions. That's what I think.
Sylvia?
Benny, I want to approach this topic from maybe two angles. As a nation in transition, which I keep saying, we must understand that we are having a lot of challenges. And if we don't strategize and devise a means of addressing them, we won't make any headway. And let me also say that for the vulnerables in our society, here you're talking about children, the mentally handicapped, the aged.
Yep.
We must be very careful and remember that we can all fall into any of those groups at any point in time.
Definitely.
So we must do all that we can, especially when you find yourself in major decision-making position, to protect them. In the past, if there was any orphan in anybody's family, an uncle, an auntie, a sister, or somebody takes up that responsibility. That is not so now because of obvious reasons. But if the state cannot protect those vulnerable, and people can take other people's children and sell them, so to speak, to foreigners, I think the state has a responsibility to step in and streamline their operation. People go in the name of orphanages begging for money, which they don't use for the intended purposes.
That's right.
So the state must not be helpless. Social welfare exists, but as to whether they are functional is another. So if anything else can be done to empower them and strengthen their capacity to deliver, I don't see anything wrong with it. But then I keep saying one thing, that we must be looking at the end right from the beginning, so that we don't get to the middle and realize that, oh, we should have done this. So we must think through it, weigh the possible
Pros and cons.
pitfalls, and actually put in measures. So when the airline and everything that is needed gives it that legal framework, then we can work with it. And I also want to say that if these things are being done, a broad consultation should be done. Sometimes some very relevant bodies are even forgotten that they exist, and then when they finish, they expect you to come and implement it, which has always been the problem. So I wish that a broader consultation would be done, and then people's inputs are all brought on board, and then we are sure that whatever we are doing it for a long term to bring this country to where we really want it to be.
Indeed. If everybody could have that approach, it would be wonderful. The Today newspaper this morning, Minister shakes in Parliament. Fuel shortage hits Accra, we already know. And water, electricity tariffs go up. Second Today lectures comes off today. And Black Stars must not fail today. We haven't spoken about them yet, so let's start right now because we're actually running out of time. Like I said, it's a compressed show today. Sylvia.
Yes.
What are you expecting from our Black Stars today?
Nothing, but at least, I'm not a soothsayer, but at least about 3 goals.
About 3 goals?
Yes, about 3 goals should help us. Why? Do you think it's impossible?
I like you.
You were not expecting Ghana to draw with Germany.
I really had some small optimism.
Okay, so I have come to a point in my life where I always think that when you think about it and you work towards it, it's possible. And for me, the only thing I pray for is that they will concentrate on what matters to deliver. As for the appearance fees and what have you, that should not really be an issue today. They must go all out, and they must play together as a team. No selfishness. Don't think that you really want to see your name on the score sheet. It's about Ghana, and the team is Ghana. That's and we must win. And I hope that Dr. Kwesi Appiah has some strategy up his sleeves that we don't know yet that would work out, because World Cup platform is not for experimentation.
Indeed.
Let us take our chances For those who are being disrespectful in camp, I believe people must be disciplined. So if somebody is being indisciplined, I think he has to crack the whip. And no player should think that they're indispensable. I've always said that when you think people cannot do without you, it's just a matter of time.
I wish I'd recorded everything you just said, so that in every 15 minutes or so, I'll just play it to the general public. What's your forecast?
Portugal is almost out anyway.
They're almost out.
So they're not almost out.
We just need to push them.
You see, in fact, now Ghana is hoping against some
I think
mathematical
we are winning.
calculations. Well, I wish we do.
We
I
will.
really wish we do. But you see, Portugal stands the same chance as we do, because we both have
One
one
point.
point. If they are able to score as the way we anticipate we score them,
Yeah.
and also pray that
Don't
Germany
worry,
is
Harrison
Germany is
Affo-
Full,
Harrison
not half
Affo will
empty.
be on
I think-
No,
Ronaldo.
I want to be optimistic, but of course it should be founded on something. If we are able to go out and play the same way we did against the Germans,
It will be
I am pretty
better.
convinced we can win over the Portuguese. But the question really is about goals. How many goals can we score? Because granted, Germany is able to beat US, they still lead us by 1 goal, which means that they are better positioned to move to the next stage. So our responsibility is not just to win, but to win with more goals.
With the margin, yeah.
And I just hope that they are able to do so. But I have a problem with this 3 million flight.
Okay, that's
$3
not
million
under
that has
dispute at the
been
moment,
flown
so
to visit.
we'll talk about that
But I
later.
think this morning it might spoil people's appetite for
Yes.
victory. So I think I'll leave it.
Thank you
at
very
that.
much,
Yeah.
Atik. I appreciate your holding back on that one. The Daily Dispatch newspaper, you can't get rid of it. Ghana sends 3 million cash to players. Okay, let's just do this for now. The Daily Dispatch this morning: NDC MPs want Afoko and Co to show leadership, and there's news in brief here. Don't eat too much bushmeat. That's according to Mr. Abdullah Abdulaziz. Says that Ghanaians against the excessive consumption. He's cautioning Ghanaians against the excessive consumption of bushmeat to avoid contracting the deadly Ebola disease. He explained. Oh, we did think about Black Stars. They talk bushmeat.
I thought his problem or his concern was really about endangering those species. But if it's about the Ebola, Ghanaians, I'm sure, are careful which ones to eat and which ones not to.
Yes, definitely. I think everything in moderation. That's the main thing. We're going to breeze through some of the headlines now because we're actually running out of time this morning. The new crusading guide, Akufo-Addo, shuns Abu Dhabi, and Kufuor had no hand in your prosecution. And Bimbala murder case continues. Victim was not a chief, says family members. And consumers to groan again as with the hikes in tariffs. The Chronicle this morning: electricity, water tariffs go up, petrol queues return, and Togbe Afedi begs for Mahama. Afedi, sorry. But youth says Volta demo will come off. If.
Oh, so the Volta region is also gearing up to demonstrate.
Yes, yeah, apparently. Let's take a look at the story quickly, shall we? The intended demonstration by the chiefs and the people of the Volta region to protest against broken promises by the government failed to come on yesterday following pleadings by the president, John Dramani Mahama. Okay.
Yeah.
It goes further.
It's an interesting story. For me, I think that in as much as people may say this is political, but of course Aristotle will tell you everybody is a political animal. That by nature every one of us is a political animal. Because at some point you contribute ideas to taking a decision and so on. So to that extent it makes you political. But ignoring the partisan bit or twist to this, I think that increasingly Ghanaians are becoming very conscious of their responsibilities as citizens. There is something we call symbolic speech, and that is your ability to use various forms to express what your views really are. It could be strike, it could be talking, it could be demonstrations, it could be so on and so forth. It could be picketing and all that. I think Ghanaians increasingly, we are getting conscious of the availability of these tools, and we are actually beginning to make use of them. My only prayer is that whatever they intend to do, it should be peaceful.
Yes.
You want to send a message to the presidency or the leadership of this republic. it should be done without recourse to violence. I'm sure the president himself is watching events. It happened in Kumasi, now it's going to happen in Volta region. I'm sure other citizens who feel the same way as the people of Volta do should also be able to express their views in different forms, not necessarily through demonstrations. I think it adds to deepening our democracy.
Thank you. Sylvia, would you like to comment quickly?
I would just want to say that the people of the Volta region has genuine problems, just like any other person in the country does. And His Excellency the President was in the Volta region over the weekend and met the chiefs of the area. And I would just want to say that the representatives of the President in the presence of the ministers, the regional ministers, must be up and doing, because some of those things you are there representing the president, and you must take the concerns of the people to the presidency and make sure that the issues are addressed. And they have very genuine concerns. The ferry is not the Adomi Bridge was closed down earlier during the year.
Yes.
People feel frustrated about traveling. If you are going to Pando District, for instance, it means that you have to go and use Chito. And it's not been a very pleasant experience for the people. The road from Sogakope towards Adidome through Ho, it's also not in good shape. And this is the rainy season. If we really want people to feel that the power that was given to the government is to be used to improve their living conditions, things must be done right.
Indeed.
Promises must be fulfilled, and the contractors also paid so that they can deliver. And I want to appeal to all Ghanaians that we would get there. It's a matter of time. I still have a lot of hope in Ghana.
Me too.
If we don't have hope in Ghana, where else are we going?
We have to pack our bags.
But the leadership must give us.
I'm sorry.
So we need to make more taxes.
Gentlemen, I'm sorry, I have to cut you off.
So that you continue to pay the
contractors.
the
and we're out of time. Can I just finish the rest of the headlines and then we move on? Thank you. The insight this morning: impact of Guta strike. I can tell you what the impact is. Shops are closed and people get stuff to buy. Daily Searchlight: bishops, imams chase Mahama over GMO foods. No peace in Bimbala, and EC sued. That's all in the Daily Searchlight this morning. Grab your copy. The Inquirer: Ade dares Nana Addo, and Great Accra NDC chairmanship race. Manly, Spain deflects criticism. Okay. Get your copy of that. And finally this morning, the graphic showbiz: the dome stands in limbo, and you've got a picture there of Stonebwoy and Miss V, and also 4x4 and Davido in Baby Dance. I believe that's their new song that's coming out. Before we do go, goal margin for tonight's this afternoon's game.
My prayer is that Ghana should be able to win enough to take us to the next round. That's all I'm asking.
Okay. Sylvia?
I'm hoping we'll score about 3.
3 goals? Yeah. And
miracles do happen.
Great. I'll give my predictions later on in the show. But I want to thank you both for coming in this morning, assisting with the newspaper review. This has been Atik and Sylvia, and this has been brought to you by Lipton Tea, inspiration flowing from nature.